even in the aftermath of a tremendous performance and a return to the ring against champion Israel Madrimov, Terence "Bud" Crawford faces criticism and not enough acknowledgement of his accomplishments in the ring. In this editorial, I'm going to explain why he needs respect on his name. The immediate aftermath feeling for Terence "Bud" Crawford and sentiment surrounding what his options should be on his future do not correlate with what his accomplishment of Saturday night, August 3rd's match against Israel Madrimov really means. Crawford has just won his 4th Division World title. This after being a 2-time undisputed champion and in the welterweight division, the first 4-belt era undisputed champion. Crawford is putting together quite a resume for Hall of Fame as he is entering the twilight of his career, and many people do not want to acknowledge his accomplishments as he has arrived at this particular point. But it can't be denied that he is this era's top fighter. There are others that you can mention alongside, but they do not supersede what he has done in the ring, and they do not have the type of mental approach to boxing that Crawford has displayed consistently for a number of years now. This is a man who has looked to seek out challenges. You could try to say that he may be a career overachiever, but it's not really that simple, because even he remarked that becoming a world champion was a goal. But what he has achieved all the way up to this point has come through his talent, his work ethic, his psychological approach, his mental fortitude, and what's within him as a person. It's an admirable quality that goes unchecked or acknowledged by his peers and the scribes who follow the sport. When I looked at Bud Crawford for the very first time many years ago when he fought Ricky Burns, I noticed right away this was a special fighter. Sometimes you just know when you've watched the sport and seen various talents out there and how they go about their work. I noticed that in him that long ago. But I am not here to put on a sentiment of "I told you so." This is an acknowledgement of what the man has meant for the sport, starting out in the lightweight division and moving all the way up now to 154 pounds, and not just making those type of moves. Madrimov presented a huge task for Crawford because he happens to be the best right now at 154. Remember, Mel Charlo gave up all the titles, so the titles are scattered once again. But this opponent that he faced and championed was someone who has over 300 fights as in his amateur career, and in 10 fights had become a world champion. No one was beating down the door to face this man, but when you watched him on highlight tapes and watched his full fights, you could see that Madrimov would be a problem for anyone. And coming into this bout, after a year off, the Spence rematch didn't take place. Crawford had to focus up. He himself had said when he had traveled to Uzbekistan how they talked about this particular fighter. So he did not take him lightly. And to come back after a long layoff, because the Spence fight didn't take place, and take on the world champion in a new division where you had never fought before, is something that is unheard of amongst today's fighters. Yeah, you can move up and grab one of the belts from a lesser champion and someone who's less accomplished, but when you take on someone who's 8 years younger, bigger, stronger, has not only good skills, good footwork, and power, but you know the sentiment of the audience is they want to see you fail because of your own accomplishments. And Crawford disappointed everyone, including, at the end of the day, Israel Madrimov, because it was his ring IQ, boxing smarts, his experience overall, and how he has gone about his work in his career that helped assist him in overcoming this tremendous challenge. When I listen to the word of mouth that comes about right now, that people are saying, oh, he's not going to beat Canelo Alvarez. Why would he even consider facing Alvarez when he wasn't able to stop Madrimov? No, the question should be, why wasn't Madrimov able to stop this elder statesman in the sport? An old man, as you would want to call him, an old lightweight, but this is an accomplished man, a special talent. He is a fighter of this generation that many are not just willing to give him his just due. And it is because of those detractors that he has a motivated disposition, because he wants to be able to sit on the dais in the aftermath of bouts saying that he proved people wrong. See, this is the type of inspiration that one can use as self-motivation to keep himself hungry, to keep himself honed and primed to be able to go out and accomplish what this sport requires of you. Boxing is very tough. It's the type of sport that can take a lot out of someone. And with his record now of 41-0 with 31 KOs, Terence Bud Crawford has shown himself not only to be the most polished tool in the drawer of boxing, one of the most intellectual. When you talk about fighters like Saul Canelo Alvarez, who is an accomplished fighter in his own right, or you want to talk about Naoya Inoue, who's a younger guy in the smaller divisions and who could still move up and take on challenges himself, the reason that you cannot align fighters like that up with Crawford is, as he's moved up, he has faced the best of opposition. They say that that guy is the man, okay, I'll fight him. They say that this guy is better than me, okay, I'll fight him. This is not something that Canelo Alvarez does, and it is not anything that Naoya Inoue has done yet. So to try to put those men above him and try to take away from what he's doing because they are not, you're really flipping the script here. When I watched Crawford take punishing shots from Madrimov, which you know they were shock absorbing punches from Madrimov, very strong, he had the resolve to not only take what Madrimov was dishing out, but in the championship rounds assert himself appropriately to be able to take the title away from the champion. This is something that is a marked characteristic trait of a fighter like Terence Crawford. He can rise to the occasion. Even if for whatever reason he may have gotten dropped, you know that he's the type of fighter that would get up and fight even harder. It's something that has been a mainstay as far as his career, and it is something that many of his contemporaries do not exhibit when they're out there. For example, his friend Tim Bradley, what he had to say about the Madrimov performance.
Madrimov closed the gap really quick. His feet are quick. But you didn't see all the angles. You didn't see none of the southpaw. You didn't see any of the stuff that we seen Madrimov on film do. You didn't see him do that. You know, he played it safe, and he played it just for the discipline type of fight. Because again, he knew he couldn't make mistakes after a while. And when he did try something, Crawford nullified that with the result. So Crawford's a bad man. I don't, everybody's praising Madrimov because he did well. He's a champion. But he did okay. He did all right. And just because he did well, I mean, we giving all these flowers, and you forgetting about who won. The one was Crawford.
And see, that's the story right there. Who won? Terence Bud Crawford. Who's a winner? Terence Bud Crawford. And sometimes when a winner does exactly what they do, it is not up for you to decide, because of the outcome of how they won, whether or not is subjective that they did. You know, if Crawford had blown Madrimov out inside the distance, people would say Madrimov was nothing. But now people are acknowledging the fact that Israel Madrimov is a quality fighter. There are still some who are saying, well, he only had 10 pro fights, well, 11 with the draw, but Crawford still was fighting a guy that didn't have experience. No, he had over 300 amateur fights, which means that he was a professional when he turned pro with that much fighting experience. You see how they flip the script when they want things to go a certain way. Terence Bud Crawford wasn't the best of the amateurs. He didn't get a chance to go to the Olympics. But some of those fighters who did fight in the Olympics have never touched anywhere near the successes that he has enjoyed as a professional, and definitely a first ballot Hall of Fame candidate. Crawford doesn't need Canelo Alvarez. Canelo would actually need someone like Crawford in order to push his own resume over a certain ledge. But therein lies the risk. Because of Crawford's accomplishments, where he stands, having come up, like they say, from lightweight. But there were good to great fighters in boxing way before Terence Crawford came along. There's a gentleman by the name of Sam Langford. Look up where he started and where he ended as a professional fighter. So, yes, size does matter, but you know what matters even more? It's the size of the fight that's within the fighter. Because when a man is big on the inside, he can live under the disguise of not being non-threatening on the surface. But when you get into the blender with him and you begin to find out what that inner fortitude is all about, that's when you realize there are levels to this. And that's what Crawford maintains within what he has accomplished in the sport. There will always be detractors, and there will always be people who will question, well, why didn't you fight this guy or that guy? What matters most is the guys that he has fought, what he's been able to achieve against them, and how he has always wanted more of the stiffest and best competition. They really tried to age this man out, but he is aged like fine wine with his accomplishments in the sport. I don't know any of his contemporaries who would have stepped up to the challenge of facing a young, strong, fresh fighter like Israel Madrimov in their first opportunity at a world title when they could have gone for a softer opposition and consideration. But what do you think? This is Stormy B-Man. Shout out to the mighty LDBC and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Peace to everyone out there, and everyone please remain safe.